Well, hello.
Hello, hello, hello. Well, our the logos are a little bit. We'll have to, adjust
Man,
that. Hey, doesn't matter. I know.
they're both the same
Whatever.
logos.
Whatever.
What do you got going
Uh,
on back there on the door? You is that your dressing room or what?
it is. I've
So
got business casual back here. Business in the front and casual in the back.
I see, I see.
And
So today we're going to talk about getting the junk out of your trunk, and what it really is that, Chris.
yeah. So the idea of it is decluttering and organizing when it comes to your job search. Um, I think the overarching thing that you're going to see as we go through these, we've got 6 tips that John and I are going to review. The big overarching theme is you treat a job search like a job.
Right.
And if you do it that way, I think you'll find it the most successful, both because in some cases, many people have not had a job, have not been unemployed for quite some time. And so if you're in a situation where you're now unemployed, you have this loss of purpose, if you will. You're not sure what to do with yourself. Well, you drive that same attention into finding a job. At the same time, with such a competitive market, only those who are the hungriest are going to be the ones to get that next role.
Gotcha. Okay. And why don't you go ahead and we'll get started on your tips. And yours are pretty decent, and I like them a lot. Just go ahead and I'll jump in when I can.
Sure. So the 3 I have here are going to be do career brainstorming. This is job types. So in other words, when you're going to look for your job, what role do you want? Is there a type of role you want? Is there a type of company, style of company culture? You want a big company, small company? Are you open to relocating? If so, where in the country? Have an idea of what you're looking for. So as you're searching for the jobs, there's a filter that you can put every potential position through. The other is tune up and optimize your career marketing tools. This is just a way of saying, you know what, make sure your resume is updated, make sure it's in good working order, make sure there's no spelling errors. We've talked before about the importance of resumes. Make sure it's good. Make sure your resume and your LinkedIn profile match. That's a big deal. Make sure you're when it comes to your social media even. It sounds crazy to say, but especially in this day and age, either lock down or privatize your personal social media like Facebook, Instagram, what have you. Or if you've got any questionable, in this day and age, political, commentary, for example, remove it. You want to make sure that across the board, you're presenting a professional image. And then the last thing is, of course, as you've begun to, first of all, figure out what type of company that you're looking for, and you've figured out how to get your resume. The last part is develop a list of companies. This can be your wish list. Okay, it can be everything from the local company that you want to work with, to the Googles, to the Amazons, to those kind of places. It doesn't matter. A list of companies that you want to work with. That's critical because as you begin to work through your job hunting process, you'll actually be able to start to know what companies you should be networking with. And
Right.
Networking, I think, is an important part that you're going to talk about, John.
Yeah, and I think the one thing we have to make sure is we're writing these things down. Like we have to have them on a notepad or on an Excel spreadsheet, something that actually makes sense to us that we can track every day.
Right.
If we don't write it down, if we just keep it in our head, I think we lose it. And the one thing that you had talked about too, that company culture, job type, a lot of people are just saying, well, I've always been in this field and I've always been in this position. Well, it's might be time to look at something different. It might be time to look at another field. And again, like you mentioned, it might be time to relocate. And if so, what are your top 5 markets? Write all this down. It has to be a good list. And we actually pulled these from a pretty good article that we'll include in the links. But,
Yeah.
You want to make sure it's all on paper or in computer form so that you can document it. You can track what you're doing. You know who you've applied to. The big piece for me, though, is, the networking piece and all that fun stuff. Again, you want to develop and track all the search activities. So, we've used in the past for job searches here, we've used search strings that we call, basically we place them on Excel spreadsheets. And so you can track everything that way. Google Docs has its own form of that, so you can do any of that stuff. The interesting piece about that is if you apply for a job, you should put that job in that sheet so that you know when you applied, when to follow up, and then when to do the next thing, which is networking. The networking piece is huge, especially in the digital age right now with the way we are, because we really need to focus on the digital networking piece, and that is the LinkedIn connections, or go to, like you have here, alumni, professional organizations that you've had in the past, or your former customers. That is one of the best ways as a former customer to network and say, hey, we've sold you 1,000 rooms over the last 10 years, but my position's being eliminated. Is there anything that I can work with you on to help you out? And then lastly, of course, is working with recruiters. And the tough part about that is some recruiters are in the mix right now with the rest of us that, we're struggling if we're in the hospitality field. We have jobs, but they're tough jobs to fill, of course. So, but we would love to work with anybody who might need a resume looked at, or, we have some interesting courses coming up, products that we're building. There's an interview course, there's a resume course, and a LinkedIn course coming up. And those things are going to be pretty cool for people to do, to take them, buy them, and then learn a little bit more. So,
and I think it's really important that, part of the networking aspect of it as well, we talked about it ad nauseum, but it's so important. LinkedIn, for example, be out there, be creating content on LinkedIn, be liking and commenting on other people's comments out there. Get your name out there, because at the end of the day, if you're in an industry, for example, that may have been particularly hard hit by the pandemic, you may be competing with hundreds of thousands of people who are looking for a job at the same time you are. You want to be able to be out and about and be visible whenever possible. Though that's key. And to John's point as well, too, if your particular industry was heavily impacted by the pandemic, and there's been a number of industries that have done that, don't pigeonhole yourself into thinking that you're only stuck in that particular industry. In many cases, a salesperson, if you sold widgets, you can sell something else. Right. You can do, you've got the necessary skills. Don't put yourself in the corner before you even get started.
No, and the other thing too is here's a way we can do this digitally, right? So in order to find those companies you want to work for, Glassdoor and Indeed are very critical. They actually give the kind of like TripAdvisor does in hotels. They give reviews on not only the company, but the employees, the interview questions, all those kind of things. So you can go to Glassdoor and type in best companies to work for, or companies that are strong in diversity and inclusion, and you can choose from those companies to put onto your list. And I think if you do that, you'll find companies that are very vital to what you match as far as your values go. And those are the people you want to work with.
And the last part here, we talk about the networking part, and John, you talked about the friends and the customers. It's equally important that you look at your dream list of targeted companies, if you will, because what you can do is on your current LinkedIn, go to First Connections. You can search by company. You may very well already have a friend, a former colleague, associate who's already working for that dream company. They're your first go-to. You want to continue to connect with people within that company, but they're number one. You go to use your in to help hopefully get around the crowd, if you will, and get yourself in the front door.
Well, and also that's not the case. If you go to LinkedIn and you look at your friend, or your company, it'll say your connection to the company is this guy.
Yep.
And so that person might be able to get you in the door if you talk to them. They might have a wife that works there or something, but they're a connection somehow. And so, that's one of the greatest ways. So, well, that's great. I appreciate the time today from everybody, and we will talk to you on Wednesday. We're going to go every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and we will talk to you guys on Wednesday.
Have a good Monday, guys.